trying to figure out how legislators ought to help the citizens in a country be good. They need to be good because that will help them lead good lives. These are lives that are characterized by what Aristotle's called eudaimonia, or happiness/flourishing. And so the legislators are supposed to encourage them, help them to find pleasurable things that are good for them, and discourage them from things that are bad for them by making them, if not overtly painful, at least unpleasant. Now we need to have a little caveat here between actually being good, being excellent, and just seeming excellent. So, like Plato, like Socrates, Aristotle is very concerned about the difference between actually being good and just seeming good. So an act is only virtuous or excellent or will only cause happiness if it's done because it is good, so for that sake, not for some other reason. So as an example, he gives grammar. And so say, I speak some French, I speak some Latin, I speak some Greek, I speak no Spanish at all, or no good Spanish. I might still occasionally put together a good sentence in Spanish just by guessing at things, because I know French sounds a lot like Spanish, so maybe I could pull it off. But that doesn't make me a Spanish speaker, just because I happen to guess right. Right? I could probably ask where the library is, I could probably ask where the bathroom is, but that doesn't mean that I speak Spanish well, or that I'm a good Spanish speaker, even when I speak those sentences correctly. Right? You would only call me a Spanish speaker if I'm actually fluent. And so Aristotle thinks the same thing is true about being good or being virtuous. Right? If I stumble on happening to do the right thing, right, just by chance, I try to rob somebody and I accidentally save their life. I haven't done anything virtuous, have I? This is obvious. I'm still a bad guy. I'm still doing the wrong sorts of things. I just sort of got lucky. So it's the case that we're only really good if we have the right sorts of reasons. And so the aim with this pleasure and pain thing is to give us the right sorts of reasons, to help us keep from just being lucky, and really teach us, no, these really are the right sorts of things to do. So, he's also going to ask, before he finally gives us the answer, Aristotle really likes to sort of build up and backload the answers, well, what kind of a thing is excellence? We know that happiness is a state of being. Well, is excellence the same? He's going to say yes. And to do so, he needs to discount the two other possibilities. So first of all, he could say, well, is excellence a passion? No. Passions, he says, are things like anger, fear, joy. They're emotions and emotion-like things. We think excellence is different than these. Right, because we think you can be more or less excellent. We can praise you for being excellent. We can't really praise you for being angry or happy. That's just goofy. Is it a faculty? Well, faculties are things like abilities or capacities, right? So I have a faculty to speak French that it is mentioned. I have a faculty to use computers. I have a faculty of rationality. He thinks, no, excellence isn't something like these, because we think that these are means to excellence. Right? You might need a faculty to be excellent at something. Right, so I need the faculty of probably knowing the alphabet if I want to write a dissertation or if I want to write a paper. This is pretty obvious. But we think excellence is something more than these. You need faculties to be excellent, but excellence isn't actually a faculty. So, he's going to conclude, excellence must be a state, or a way of being. What state is it? It's whatever state makes something good. This seems fairly plausible, so let's see more of what he means by this. The state of excellence is a state that makes something good. Well, what is it that makes something good? We've heard a little bit about this already. It's being the mean between two bad extremes. He wants to qualify this a little bit because we know that sometimes there is no mean. Right? So he brings up things like spite, for example. You can't be just the right amount of spiteful, right? That's crazy. Spite is never excellent then, because you can't have a moderate amount of it. Spite is always bad. Right, so it's probably the case that spite is actually an excess of something, like righteous indignation. So he's going to give us a couple more examples. We talked about the one for fear already. When you're faced with fear, being too brave is sort of rash or stupid. Being not brave enough is being cowardly. Being just right is courageous. For money, if you're too miserly, then you're a Scrooge. If you're too free with it, you're probably broke. So what you want to do is you want to be liberal. If you're really rich, he thinks there's even a different kind. You want to be magnificent, which sort of means you also give to charity, you build statues for your town, you sort of help out the community. And for honor, he thinks this is sort of what has to do with pride. The right amount is having just the right amount of pride in what you do. Having too much means you're boastful, and having too little means you're sort of falsely modest. You know that you're good at things, you won't admit it. So here are more examples of how to be excellent in specific sorts of things. We'll talk about his final conclusions on excellence in the next and final video.